Pranam everyone. My today's video is on the question of birth-based caste slash jati slash varna, all of that. So there's a big discussion right now, and in general, in episodes, it keeps happening. There's a discussion on the source of birth-based caste system, whether it exists in Hinduism or not. And I've explained this subject elaborately before, but I wanted to recount a few important points, and I wanted to explain how the whole concept of birth-based caste is very inherently at odds with some of the most core ideas, core tenets of Hindu Dharma. So, as some of you, if you have watched my previous videos, you would be knowing, then I have explained that in Hindu Dharma, as per the Shastras, as well as later on, nowhere the varna, please mind the word varna, is given as birth based. It is given based on your pravritti, on your nature, on what drives you, what is your source of inspiration, what is it that makes you wake up every day and do whatever you are doing. Where does your heart lie, for example, right? I've spoken a lot on this. So that is varna. Jati is where you are born, and again I've also explained this before, so please go and watch my videos if you've not seen them. Jati is not limited to even just human yoni. It just means the condition in which you are born, whether it is it need not even be just the jatis which we know in human terms, but it could also, in Shastras, the word jati has been used to depict other yonis, like other beings, right? So jati is first of all not restricted to humans, and secondly jatis were thousands, and there wasn't any direct mapping of which jati belongs to which varna, because varnas are only 4. In all the Shastras, only 4 varnas are given, whereas jatis are thousands. So, jati and varna are two essentially different ways of looking at a civilization, right? Now, that is just a little bit of context of what I've already spoken on about jati and varna. Now, caste is an introduction by the European entities which came to India. Of course, the word caste is not Indian, does not occur in any of the Indian languages, regional languages, Sanskrit, any language. So obviously it's a European insert. And even the concept of caste was actually introduced much later. And there is a very strong parallel between caste and Abrahamic religions, which is what I want to talk about today. See, the idea of caste, birth-based caste, is very similar to the segregation of the European society in the 18th and 19th centuries. So in the Abrahamic religions, if you've studied them a little bit, the whole idea is based on sin and, some good afterlife after you die, and being superior based on birth. So the whole royalty, the whole aristocracy, the British aristocracy, and of course other Europeans also, the whole idea of aristocracy was based on birth. You could be a royal just because you're born in a royal family. You could be an aristocrat, a lord, an earl, or Dutch duke, whatever, duchess, duke, whatever. You could be all of that just based on birth, right? So that is essentially a very European concept, and it aligns a lot with their idea that, in this birth you just work, and then, based on whatever you are doing, you will get some benefit in the afterlife. You will get heaven or hell, or in Islam it's different. You will get some other perks if you do certain things. And in both, I'm giving only 2 examples of Abrahamic religions because they are the most popular. In both of these, the idea is that there is an idea of infidel, and there is an idea of kafir, and there is an idea of a pagan or a non-believer. So all of these do discriminate between your ideologies. Your ideology is, it is a factor in deciding the amount of respect you get by those people. Now, this birth-based caste system is very similar to this whole line of thinking. It's very, I'm not saying it's an exact replica, but there are a lot of things which are very much in common between these two things. So in birth-based caste system, what they believe is that, whichever caste you are born into, you cannot change your caste. You are stuck with that caste. And because they are Hindu, they do add that karma theory and all that. And then based on your good deeds of this birth, you will get the next caste in your next birth, right? But still, the benefits are postponed to your next life. It is not in the same life. In the same life, you are condemned to live with whichever caste you are born into. And so in this way, the so-called Brahmins of this system, this birth-based caste system, they declare the supremacy based on what they believe to be their previous good deeds. Whether they are living as a Brahmin or not is completely irrelevant to this belief they have. And as is usually the case, most of the people who hold on to these beliefs are not actually living as what the Shastras define as Brahmin. So this parallel is very, it is very obvious to somebody who understands the depth of the Varna Vyavastha. Now, in Hinduism, see, there is a possibility of moksha, of liberation for everybody. And there is nothing in the Shastras which say that, whatever you do, you will get the fruit of that in the next Janma. No. That is one of the most core, essential difference between Hinduism, Hindu Dharma, and all other religions. In Hindu Dharma, your sankalpa is extremely important. Why? Because in Hindu Dharma, everything is based on the core concept that everyone is divine. Divinity exists in every little molecule of the whole universe. So that means you also, irrespective of which so-called caste or whatever you are born into, you are God, you are Ishvara, you are one more manifestation of Parameshwar, right? So that is what we believe. And hence, the whole progression of your journey can change at any instant. Because any moment you suddenly wake up to the fact, oh, I am divine, I am Ishvara. At that moment, from that context, any sankalpa you take has to manifest. It will manifest. So if you have been living your whole life as a Shudra in terms of what I define as a Varna, I've given sufficient context of that. Even if you have been living as a Shudra without any motivation, without any purpose, without any, any spiritual, journey as such, if you have been living as a Shudra, even so, if someday, you get inspired, you meet maybe an enlightened master, or you have a huge cognitive shift or something, and you suddenly declare, oh, from tomorrow, I want to live a life just for enlightenment, and I want to make sure I support others also in their enlightenment. That moment you are declaring to be a Brahmana, and the cosmos supports you. This is really the essence of Hinduism. In Hinduism, it is not that you are negotiating deals with some entity out there somewhere who will judge you and decide whether you are qualified to go to heaven or hell, or whether you are qualified to be a Brahmin or a Shudra. No, there is no other entity. Ishvara is not the other in Hinduism. Ishvara is everywhere, including you. You just have to wake up to that fact. And this is one of the most important reasons why this whole birth-based caste is inherently at odds with everything that Hindu Dharma stands for. Most people mistranslate Advaita, mistranslate, mispreach Advaita as one more way of justifying all their beliefs. But Advaita essentially means that Advaita means what? No two. Advaita, non-duality. Non-duality means what? That means all even your societal ideas of this, that, superior, inferior, rich, poor, so-called Brahman, so-called Shudra, so-called Vaishya, none of that is of any significance. Because there is no two. Everything is a manifestation of that one, infinite source, which is God or Ishvara or whatever way you want to call it. So in Hinduism, you get the rewards of whatever you're doing, or the paycheck or whatever you're doing, or the fulfillment of whatever you're doing now in this life now. Yes, you continue with it into the next birth, because see, in Hinduism there is no birth and death like the way we understand. The Bhagavad Gita says, right, death is just a change of clothes. It's just leaving one body, picking up another body. Means what? Means your karma is just continuing in one continuum. There is no break as people make it out to be from one birth to the next. It's not like there is suddenly you have accrued this much karma and then suddenly it's going to multiply or whatever. It's not like that. You can keep burning karma and you can also keep earning karma. It's a dynamic thing. It's not like one bank somewhere your karma is getting stored and at the end of your life then some God will come and judge you. It's not like that. And all these ideas are what the caste theory, the birth-based caste theory seems to propound. It is inherently at odds with all the basic understandings of Hinduism. See, in Hinduism, like I'm saying, Ishvara is not other. Now, I know some people are going to say that, but we have the Bhakti movement and we have the Dvaitis. See, Dvaita is one more Sampradaya. Just because you're part of Dvaita does not mean you are anti-Advaita. It's not like you have different camps who are all supposedly against each other. No. You have to get out of this binary logic. See, that Dvaita is just one more way of experiencing Advaita. Dvaita means what? I have not yet been able to experience or I have not really realized my divinity till now. But I do love a certain form of that same divinity. So I'm going to worship that form of divinity until the point I myself wake up to the fact that I am that. That I am that Ishta Devta of mine. The Bhakti movement, the Dvaita, means you are worshipping certain form, Ishta Devta, as your chosen favorite deity. And you are worshipping again with that context, with that intention that I will worship and I will enjoy that devotion, I will enjoy that sweetness of devotion in that journey until the point I myself can realize and wake up to the fact that I am only that. And there is nothing in Hindu Shastras which stops you from declaring your divinity. I mean, all the Mahavakyas tell you that, right? Tattvamasi, Prajnanam Brahman. There are so many, right? Like I can keep going on and on, but if you have really soaked yourself into Upanishads, you will know that there are so many Mahavakyas which are telling you that, oh human, wake up. You are God. You are manifesting everything. Right? Ekoham Bahushyam. This is again another Mahavakya. Means what? From one became many. So what I'm trying to say is that these ideas of birth-based caste are inherently against everything that Hinduism stands for. And there is a very big problem with justifying or upholding or promoting these birth-based caste. It's not just about what you believe, but it is this segment, this particular belief system of birth-based caste, which has actually led to this idea of Brahmanical supremacy, Brahmanical patriarchy. Why? I'll explain why. Because these ideas of supremacy and patriarchy and all these are again at parallel with those European ideas of supremacy. What is white supremacy? It is just considering yourself to be superior because you're white. That's white supremacy. I'm just explaining the term. Okay, I'm not saying it's good or bad, right or wrong. I'm just explaining the technical term. But that was the source of racism in the 18th and 19th century. That was the source and is still the source of racism and discrimination, subjugation, persecution of millions of people. That was the reason for keeping people as slaves. And when those Westerners look at this birth-based caste system, it looks very much like that. And why? Because that is the source of this. And this kind of a system, if we uphold, which has really no relevance today, first of all. Second of all, it doesn't even connect to anything in the Shastras. Then we are actually giving fodder to these Western, forces to abuse all of Hinduism and all of Hindus, which is a really terrible thing. They are drawing parallels between this birth-based caste system and racism. And we Hindus are not understanding that. We just troll people when they talk about Brahmanical patriarchy and all of that. But the sad reality is this kind of a belief system is the reason why we have those kind of terms. Of course, they have their own agendas. I'm not saying that they don't. But we are giving them fodder to troll or to misrepresent Hinduism on the global arena. So this whole problem of birth-based caste is not limited to just our Indian ecosystem. And the communists use the same birth-based caste to completely butcher all ideas of Hinduism. Why? Again, because communism rose as a response to this Western ideas of supremacy and all of that, birth-based supremacy. Communism rose in Europe mainly in response to those ideas of supremacy. And hence, when they try to map it to India, they latch on to that same birth-based caste thing. Of course, they will tell you that, birth-based caste is from Hinduism. Of course, they will tell you. I mean, are you going to learn, if you want to learn communism, learn it from communists, but don't learn Hinduism from communists. Learn Hinduism from actual Hindus. Communists are always going to learn, are always going to tell you that, this is only Hinduism and this is what your Shastras say. No, this is not what our Shastras say. This is not Hinduism. But because there is a gang, there is a cartel which continuously keeps on justifying this birth-based caste system, it strengthens their argument. And it strengthens their argument that, you are orthodox, you are this, that, blah, blah. And we don't have any intelligent answer, because as long as this lobby exists, how can we give an intelligent answer? So I wanted to explain some of these nuances, and I'll be explaining it in a whole lot more detail in my book, which will take time. It's not going to be done so quickly. I have amassed a whole lot of references for this. I'm purposely not giving it in my video because there is one more gang of plagiarists who I call the thief gang, who don't have any sense of context, they don't have any brains, they don't have any purpose. Their only goal is to increase a few followers, likes, retweets, and I'm not in that game. But I don't want to give my knowledge to get people to shred it to bits, because they will not give it in the right way, they will not use it in the right way, they will use that only to troll me or to troll somebody else. So I'm not giving those references and those deeper insights on purpose. I have explained it. I think my explanation is fair enough at this point, but I will go into much more detail in my book. Once it's out, you can check it out. It will take time because it's a lot of work, it's a lot of effort. So this is what I wanted to explain today. Thank you for watching. And as many of you might be knowing, our non-profit works on several issues, mainly persecution of Hindus, reasons for persecution of Hindus, documenting it, and we work on the Upanishads projects. If you would like to support any of these projects, do consider making a contribution so we can continue without too much of interruption and all of that. Well, thank you for watching.